Welcome to the CEO Story, brought to you by KC Chauhan, founder of Together CFO, where every week we're interviewing the top CEOs in various industries, sharing their journey and extracting the top things that made them successful. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the CEO Podcast. We've got a great one today. We've got Scott Griest, who is an investor and a managing director of Coastal Capital Group. Scott, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. How are you doing?
Doing great. Thank you. And thank you to all your listeners for taking some time out of their day to be with us.
I'm sure they'll be eager to learn more about you and your successes along the way. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and Coastal Capital?
Great. Yeah. Basically, serial entrepreneur after MBA school. I did out of college, university. I did 8 years in the corporate world and got a little disenfranchised with that. And then since then, had specialty focus on finance businesses. I've had 4 finance businesses, sold the first 2, and now been a member of Coastal Capital, one of the founding members there for the past 13 years. And we really specialize in the niche of commercial lending for non-owner occupied properties, so business properties, rental properties, throughout California. We think it's really important to have a niche and go after it. And it's nice that we live in one of the largest economies. If you look at, California, I think it would be like the 8th largest country on its own economically. So, it's a great market to be in, and we're, just by happenstance.
So look,
got lucky.
I totally agree with that. It is a beautiful part of the world, and we're very fortunate to live here. So that's fantastic for us. So when looking through your background, it's fantastic to see what you've achieved so far, but a lot of it seems to be based around a sales and marketing perspective. And then more recently, or kind of later in your career, you've then switched to investing, charity work, and then obviously financing. Can we talk a little bit about the beginning and the sales side and the marketing skills that you kind of learned? Because it seems to be a common trend, definitely for our listeners. And as I'm learning more and more, with more successful people, there's an underlying base of sales/marketing skill.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, sales and marketing is in every business. If you're an emerging artist, a sculptor, you can make great work. But if you can't share it with the world or get people interested in it, you're not going to be able to share that love and passion you have. If you are in human resources, you've got to get candidates into your company. So I think everything pretty much boils down to sales and marketing, and it's a really important skill. And people who are successful at it, like you said, that can sort of master it and figure out their strengths that play into that, they end up having a much more rich, fulfilling, and financially rewarding life, no matter where they are. Like a band, if you're a musician, if you can sales and market your band, you can play more shows and share your music with more people. So I think it's universal across the board. So I started.
What made you go into that? Because you're at Pepperdine and you did like an MBA and you were in economics before that. So it's very like business finance focused. But then when you left and you started in the sales world, what made that switch?
Really came out of MBA school education. Part of a senior class project, there were 4 of us, and we said, hey, what's going to move the world? I went to the MBA school in the 90s, and we knew marketing in the internet age was going to be huge. And so we started a multimedia email company out of our final class project. Our professor came to us and said, hey, I love this idea. How about I give you $250,000 and create this? And that's building it from the ground up and really diving into marketing and figuring what makes people tick, what gets people to respond, and just trial and error over and over and over again. It's how you build it. It's like the old adage, you just have to do things over and over and over again to become great at it. You can start from ground floor, nothing, but if you just keep trying and grinding at it, you're going to learn every day and build on that. So that's how I pretty much did it, bootstrapping from the ground up.
No, that's a great kind of story, and it's really cool of your professor to throw in $250,000 like that, especially back in those days. In terms of failing and learning, there's a really good book that I read. I think it was John Maxwell, Fail Fast.
Yes.
And it's all about exactly what you just said, is that fail, learn, adjust, tweak, test, fail, learn, and just keep doing it quicker and quicker so that ultimately you get to success sooner, but to not give up along the way. I think a lot of people in this world are used to instant gratification, whether that's your Amazon order delivered in 2 hours, or just generally think that success happens overnight, which is a lot of what the media kind of brainwash people into. But that's not really the case in real life, as we know. What kind of advice can you give people that are along that journey and have just hit that failure that's kind of knocked them to the floor, and to get back up again?
Yeah, two things. Number one, they have to, the hardest thing in human nature is to realize this is a long ball game, right? I mean, I've invested in restaurants that have instantly failed 6 months later, which is a big bummer when you put in a lot of money and the thing's done. I've also started companies, another finance company that just didn't work out because of macroeconomics. You're gonna fail along the way, but the old saying is you strike out on all the at bats you didn't take. You got to step up to the plate and take those shots at it to learn and grow. Now, the second part is, I think a lot of people focus on, I don't want to fail big time. Well, the failures happen both on the micro level and the macro level. Every day you're failing to learn and reiterate. So if you take that same perspective, like, hey, I'm going to try to start this business and do it. And if I fail, hey, I fail, but what did I learn along the way to make myself more successful? In fact, investing, I don't like to invest in someone that's had all winners, or they tell me they've had all winners. They've had 3 companies, because they haven't been in the depths and the trenches. Because when the shit's going down, or in all businesses, they almost fail 5 times, and that's a general rule. Coastal Capital, we almost failed 5 times. The first couple of properties we invested in didn't work out as great as we thought so. We've never lost a dollar on any investment we've done. But it took quite a few years to get our money back on a couple of the properties where we had to go in and foreclose and do it. And we learned from that. So I think that's key, is that your perspective, and then really also learning and just keep grinding it out. Because if you haven't been in the trenches, it sucks. There's no way around it. I mean, it's not pretty, but it really builds you, and it builds your character. And then what's great is when you go into that situation the second time, it builds your confidence, right?
Yeah,
you build on that.
Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense to me, and I think it'll definitely resonate with the listeners. But in the early 2000s, you switched out of kind of a sales marketing role and started your own company. What made you decide to go into debt consolidation?
Oh, well, it was a really opportunity, market opportunity. End of 2000, we had the crash, right? Stock market crash. Maybe some of the listeners might be too young to remember that, but it was similar to 2008. We were in a recession. A lot of people had run up a lot of debt, and they needed help getting out of it. I was lucky to have a business before that where I really understood how to the underbanked clientele. I sort of specialized in the people that the big banks have left behind, that don't want to touch, don't want to do business with. So I realized there was an opportunistic niche, and being an entrepreneur and not having to rely on a 9-to-5 job, I said, hey, this is a great opportunity to get in to actually help people as well. We helped over 190,000 people get out of credit card debt, and it was really rewarding.
That's
every day.
A huge number.
Help those people and get it done. Yeah, it was great. I mean, you think about the credit card game. I call it a racket, right? These people, these guys extend credit to people. And back then, I don't think their underwriting models were quite as good. So they were extending credit to people that shouldn't be having credit back in the late 90s. And then they start charging these people 20, 28%, 32% interest rates. People just couldn't get out of debt, just paying the minimum payment. Something like you pay the minimum payment, it takes you 21 years to get rid of your credit card debt, which is ridiculous.
It's a perpetual cycle when you're at that stage. I think the modern day version of that is kind of these payday loans, where it's a ridiculous amount of interest. They're just hoping people don't pay it off fully, right? Yeah,
they just want to keep paying the $50 per month to service that $300 worth of debt. It's crazy. That's a crazy, crazy business model. I don't know how those guys, honestly, I don't know how some of those guys sleep at night. They have tons of consumers paying $49, $50 a month to service a $300 debt, which is unbelievable. And some people pay it for years and years and years.
Yeah, people, and I think a lot of it comes down to financial education and realizing that there are other ways, but it's just this company, going back to the sales and marketing, has literally branded themselves or been in your face that much, and it's always continually there that eventually they're like, oh, I need a quick 300 or a quick 500. And unfortunately, a lot of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, and it just comes in very handy at a time of need.
Yep, it does. I mean, I think there's a time and place for it. If you do it one time, like brakes go out on your car and you got to get to work, right? And you have nowhere else to go, you're gonna have to find a solution, right? Yeah. So it does, but then it's abused. And talking about financial education, one of my biggest things is to help mentorships I've done at Pepperdine, help out people. I think it's sort of like the old adage of you can give someone a fish or teach them how to fish, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Just if our school system would just teach basic checkbook balancing, basic budgeting, I think it would really help out in the American economy.
Because this is a huge thing as well. Even from my perspective, coming up as a business and finance major and then in the accounting world, a lot of that stuff just naturally is not taught to anyone until you specifically choose to major in it, and do a professional education in it after the fact.
Yeah, I think it should be part of all high school curriculum. Quite honestly, how to teach responsible credit card usage. Just even expose people. Here's the actual fees that happen with a credit card would be huge. Here's what you need. Here's your solutions. And even home mortgages. So many people go into home mortgages. They have no idea what these terms mean. They don't even know what APR means. That's the actual cost. They don't even know what a point means. And a point is you're paying the broker or the lending institution money up front to make the loan with you. They don't understand that's all negotiable, and then plus then all the fees, right? Because there's so many fees. It would really help consumers just to educate people. And obviously, I think the big banks, they wouldn't want that because they don't want people saying, oh, I have to pay a doc fee, $500. Okay. Well, that's a BS fee. No one should have to pay a doc fee.
Yeah, I think
on their loan.
I think you touched on it there where the people in power, it's not in their best interests to have the masses learn or become financially literate, which is crazy, but it's true. And a book I can reference this to is Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, where he talks about this a lot, and he phrases it as getting out of the rat race. And I think he's totally on point, even though that book's, I think, 20 plus years old. The
25, I think.
Yeah, the principles in it are still true to this day, where a lot of the things just kind of perpetuates one thing after another, and you get into this cycle, and it's then super difficult to get out of that. But
it is.
Yeah, I think okay. Let's move back to you. So
let's go.
Great insights there, but from that good success that you then had with the debt consolidation, you kind of stayed in that field for a while and then ventured into some investing. So can you kind of take us through that path?
Sure. So the next business I started was what's called a merchant cash advance business, which is loaning money to small businesses. Again, another niche market that is totally not serviced by big banks. If you own a hair salon, if you own a little boutique clothing store, you don't have any assets, right? You're probably leasing a space if you own a clothing store. You own a cash register. You probably you own some racks to display your clothes, and you own clothes hangers, and you own inventory.
Yeah.
There's no way a bank's going to loan you money, right? Unless you have a house you can put up, and you can put a primary residence up as collateral on a small business, which is a little scary. So what we did is we said, hey, business owner, how about we buy your future credit card receivables? So basically, you need $10,000 for inventory. We're going to give you $10,000 up front, but you're never going to write us a check. You're going to pay us back $12,000. And how you're going to pay us back is every time somebody comes in and buys clothes, we're going to take 10 cents of every dollar right off the credit card machine. So someone comes in and buys a $100 dress, you get your $89.50 the next day because the merchant processing fee, and we get $10. And we just keep taking that 10% every day until the $12,000 is paid back, and then we turn off the credit card split, as we call it, and you get your rest of your money. You get your 100% of your credit card receipts, and it really blew up and became very, very popular. because as the business had a great month, they would pay us back faster. And if they had a slower month, they paid us back less. So it was tied to their cash flow.
No,
So
that
we did
makes
that.
a lot of sense. And you hit over 100 million annually on that one, right?
100 million annually. We put out $1.2 billion over a good 8-year run.
Wow.
So yeah, it was really well. It became really popular. And then as the business grew and grew and grew, it became for me harder and harder to do the finance, to get financing lines on it, because I was sort of going from a small business, medium-sized business to a larger corporate enterprise. And I really didn't want to give up controlling equity in it, because as I had to borrow money from the bank, right, to lend out to our small business owners. And with the bank, if I put a 10 million out for the month, the bank would only give me 9 million, right? And I had to come up with the $1 million. Well, every month after month after month, another $1 million. I wasn't making $1 million a month. So I had to sell off pieces of equity. And finally we started doing, like 20 million a month. And a big credit card processing company came in and said, hey, we want to buy this business, because we know when the business owners use the credit card machine as their loan or their financing source, they never change credit card processing.
This makes sense, right?
Credit card processing is a commodity business now.
It's a great vertical for them to hook people into.
Exactly. And they use it as a sales and marketing tool. So when they walk into a pizza joint, they can say, hey, not only can we save you money on your credit card processing, but you can get a loan. And that incentivizes those business owners to switch credit card processing. And then they never leave. So
yeah,
again, another little niche. And I think that's important for your listeners. These ideas, everyone thinks they have to have a big idea, the next Uber, the next Facebook. You know what? Focus on what you know and find a niche. We only had in the credit card, in the merchant, we call it the merchant cash advance business. We only had like 60,000 clients, which is not a lot of clients. We didn't have millions and millions of clients. And if you just stick a little niche, figure out what you're good at, and then really service it, number one, people are going to find you if you have that right need. Number two, you're going to be able to really service them really, really well, because you're focusing exactly on what their needs are. And number three, if you do that well, they're going to pay you good margin, and you can build a really good business.
It's that actually resonates really well with myself in terms of my business. So with Together CFO, we started off, I could have been a traditional bookkeeper, CPA, and just done that when I left my corporate job. But I was like, no, really, my niche and my skill set is more in CFO services, which is so much more niche than the regular CPA, right? And
right.
I was like, okay, how do I make that work? Because it's such an ambiguous term, right? If I say CFO services to 5 people, nobody really knows what it means. They're semi-right along the way. And then we kind of tuned it into high net worth optimized tax structures, which then 5 out of 5 people get it and understand straight away like that. And it skyrocketed our business just by exactly what you said, is like knowing your niche and then super focusing and keeping, testing, tweaking until it's clear and understood by everyone.
So, and then you get better and better at it, and you become, you really like Warren Buffett says, you really build a moat around your business, right? Because you're so good at it. People can't even touch you. It's like the Apple thing, right? Apple's so good at making phones and what they do and the whole experience. And you just build that business like that. And you don't have to, and you can do it on a smaller scale, just like only in like our Coastal Capital. We do non-owner occupied financing on properties. So basically apartment buildings, single family residences are rented out, strip malls, standalone businesses. But what we do is we focus on the small size deals where people need less than 250,000, because there's a lot of lenders in that space, but all of them want to do $1 million loan or $10 million loan, right? But for these small guys, where do you go to get $50,000 to put a new roof on your triplex and then do some renovations to increase the rents? It's really hard to find a lender that's going to do that for you. So we focus on that one niche, and we focus only in California, and we focus on a broker network that we service to bring us in those deals. And again, we're pretty much the only player in that space. So what does that do for us? Our average APR we charge is 12.5%,
Wow.
which is crazy.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. But we are the player there, and we service it really well. Someone comes to us directly, or a broker brings us a deal. We usually fund the loan in 5 days, which is unheard of.
Quick turnaround. Yeah, it's definitely unheard of.
Yeah. So, but people will pay for that service, right? Because it's not a lot of money. If you look at it, your payment amount difference on, 75,000, 50,000, 100,000, the difference between 12.5 and, market rate are probably 9, 8.5, because again, it's not owner occupied. It's not that big a difference in payment amount, right? So for us, we can do it in scale because that's all we focus on. And other people are like, how do you do all those loans, where they're struggling, and then they're fighting on these $2 million to $5 million loans where they're making just a little bit of money. And again, just a little niche, and you focus on it and do it well.
So you're doing low value but high volume.
Yep.
Just to make that margin.
High volume, medium volume at good margin, I would say.
Okay, that makes more sense. Medium volume at good margin is a very good balance. So let's touch on the investing side. You've been an investor in many companies, and what kind of criteria do you look at when getting into a venture?
Really, who's running it? The management team. That's number one. Because I do a bunch of diverse stuff: restaurants, real estate, technology companies like ChowNow, which is a competitor to Grubhub. They've really blown up thanks to COVID. And the number one thing is the team. You can invest in a great idea, but when you have people that can't execute, it's not going to work. It's going to fail. I'd much rather invest in a team that has a decent idea, or even a marginal idea, that is just going to focus and do it. ChowNow invested in a decade ago. And a decade ago, these guys are like, yeah, we're going to help restaurants create their own online ordering platform. Well, a decade ago, that didn't really exist, right? And it was a very difficult idea to execute on. But these guys, Chris and Eric, they just were really smart. Two of us said, okay, we're going to back it and get this thing going. And they really executed well. Another example is Bodega Wine Bars. We have a small chain of wine bars.
That one. I've had a few glasses of wine there.
Yeah. And the two guys came out of advertising agencies because they knew there was a market for people that like to drink wine, but they didn't like the whole pretentiousness around it, right?
Yeah.
And that's what they did. They had a novel concept. They're like, hey, we're going to, they first started, we're going to price every glass of wine the same. Every glass of wine is going to be $9. And we're only going to sell it by the glass. That way, and they had 10 whites and we had 10 reds on the menu. And they made it a really, as you've been there, a very casual, laid back, there's nothing stuffy about it. And it really resonated with people. They really sort of coined the whole new market as a wine drinking bar.
Really, yeah, absolutely. And it used to be a really good date spot for when I was single back in the day.
Yeah, it is a really good, because it's very casual. The guy doesn't feel pressurized to buy a freaking $80 bottle of wine, right? Or the gal. We have big groups of especially young women that come in there, and then they can all try different types of wine, and it's it's affordable. We've changed it up now, where we have two levels. We have a $15 bottle of wine, glasses by I think $16 a glass, and then I think.
Oh, Scott, your audio's gone off there. Can't hear you.
Okay, hold on.
Oh, there we go. You're back.
Weird. Okay, got it.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, cool. So it's really approachable. Again, another good operators that had a good idea, and they're in the business. They're still now we're on year 16 in Pasadena and year 14 in Santa Monica, and the two operators, they are in there every day, grinding it out, make sure it happens.
No, that's a personal one that I've used and know very well. So I know that's a super good operation. And then just to kind of tee it off, you also do advisory and board work. So can you talk a little bit about getting up to that level where you're now an expert and you can then give advice back to others and pay that forward?
Yeah, basically that starts off, people approach you in doing that advisory and board work. Once you do have some level of success, you got to give back. And that started out by people just coming to say, hey, I need help. And I can't tell you the amount of people just like in LinkedIn that hit me up. And I'm like, yeah, I'll help you out, because that leads to so many other good things. I started helping out a buddy that said, hey, I need help, doing my Excel business modeling. So, I looked at his model, gave him feedback. I didn't do any of the work on the model, but I said, here's what you need to add. Here's what you need help with, and give him feedback as an investor on what you're looking at. From that, he started a good little business called Prima Health Credit, which is patient financing. And I kept helping him on and on and on. And he asked me to come be the COO, and he gave me a big chunk of equity in the company. So you pay it forward, it definitely comes back and pays back. I'm a big believer in karma, and you help a lot of people. A lot of people you help, you know what? You help them out, you give them some advice, you never hear from them again. And that's fine, at least it makes you feel good. You help somebody out, and then it comes back much later. Like, hey, I heard you help, John out on, his presentation for that. Would you mind helping us and look an advisory? Would you mind joining our board as an advisor? We'll kick you a little bit of money, and you can just come to, a meeting once a year, and it just gets paid back over and over again. And it's a good thing to do in the community, and you help build businesses, you help other people be successful. It's probably the biggest compliment, is to help other people be successful. And it's really fulfilling for myself personally.
That makes a lot of sense. And similar to myself, I'm on a couple of charity boards as well. I do a lot of charity work in LA, and it's all about giving back, because it's bigger than just us, right? It's bigger than one person. And when you reach a certain level where you can add value, or just add hands, right? At the LA Food Bank, I'm not adding any value other than being a pair of hands to then distribute food or put together baskets. So it doesn't have to be a huge, big commitment. You could do small things along the way to lead up to that as well.
And actually, I a lot as a mentor at Pepperdine, a lot of guys and gals will come to me, who are just going into MBA school or just getting out of MBA school, and they're like, how do I build my network? And you know what? Charity work is one of the best ways. You find your niche of where you want to go, or where you want to head to out of MBA school, or just in your next phase in life. And you find a charity that has people that you want to connect with and do it. Just go volunteer. Hey, I want to go volunteer at this charity. And maybe you want to be connected to someone, some of the top chefs in the world. You go to a food bank or a charity that serves the underserved, that has some notable names on the that run the charity or on their roster of donators. You get into that charity, you just donate your time. You're going to connect with those people. You're going to make those connections, so then you can then maybe connect to another person or connect directly with them and take that next step in life. And I think it's one of the underutilized things that a lot of people don't think about.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Okay, as we look to wrap up then, Scott, the last question I usually end with is, if you had to allocate your success between 3 factors, those factors being luck, how lucky you were, how much skill, and drive, how would you split between those 3?
I would say drive would be 50% for sure. Just keeping grinding, doing it over, and keeping your head up and grinding. And you know what? You just show up. Like even if you're in a corporate job, if you just show up on time and grind, and you're not on Facebook, not on your phone all day, and just do the work, you're going to do better than 95% of the people there. You know what I mean? It's so true, and it's simple. Skill, I would say, is another 30% of it. Skill, what you're doing, paying attention to detail, and then always improving your skills, whether it be back in the formal education, just going online and doing courses, building that skill set is huge. And the last one is luck, which is 20%. And you know how I spell luck? HARDWORK. Because you create your own luck. You do. By hard work, there's no such thing as lucky. Like you go, you just work hard and people notice it. And then all of a sudden the COO of your company is like, hey, this guy's good. I'm going to take him under his wing. Or you go donate your time at a charity. And all of a sudden, the chairman of the board of your dream company notices you and says, you know what? I know we need a new director of accounting. And Joanna, she's been grinding out here, and she's got a great skill set. She's charismatic. she's passionate, I'm going to tell HR to call her. So that's how I feel about good luck.
I totally agree. I think you make your own luck in this world, and
Totally do.
hard work increases how lucky you get. So I love that. Thank you so much, Scott, for donating your time to sharing with the listeners today. What is the best way for people to get in contact with you?
Probably LinkedIn, Scott Griest, Griest. You can go to scottgriest.com as well, and then just shoot me a message, and I look forward to connecting with your listeners.
Fantastic. We'll put the link down below so people can connect with you much easier. Again, thank you so much for your time, Scott. You've been fantastic.
Thank you. Everybody have a great day.